walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. Whether you are live on Facebook, live on YouTube, or you are streaming live on Roku TV right now, thanks to the wonderful people over at Northeast Sports Productions. I am Chris, and that over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Monday, sir.
Happy Monday to you as well, partner, and to everybody out there that's listening to us live. Great sports weekend. If you're a fan of MMA, there was something for you. In the world of boxing, there was something for me. NBA playoffs, MLB. I mean, it was just a great sports weekend.
Well, we have a lot to get to on a Monday. We have a lot to get to this week. There's this little thing that happens every NFL offseason. It's happening this week. It's only going to change the lives potentially of franchises and athletes. It's just something little more. It's not that big of a deal, but it's happening this week. So we're going to get to that later on this week. But we're going to start in the NFL, and we're going to start with this. So rarely do we talk Miami Dolphin football here on the morning show. Why? Because I tend to avoid talking Dolphins because they're my favorite team. I would never want anyone, Mo, to think that we're only talking Dolphins because they're my favorite team. So by default, I usually just don't talk Dolphin football. But we're talking Dolphin football twice this morning. We're going to start off with this. It just came out this week that following the Dolphins' loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs this past season, Mike McDaniels not only called out Tyreek Hill, but he did so very publicly in front of the rest of the team in the moments after that game was lost. Mike McDaniel said to Tyreek after the playoff loss, "You are supposed to be the best player in the league. And you got this guy putting hands all over you like that. We pay you all this money for what?" And he is referring to Tyreek's play in the playoff game. He was referring to the fact that Tyreek was handled by the defensive backs of the Kansas City Chiefs. He did not have a typical Tyreek performance in that game. Obviously, it's been a while. It's been a moment since this was said, and this is the first time that we are hearing about it because Tyreek is talking about it, and he is just saying that Coach Mike held me accountable. I didn't do my part. Coach Mike held me accountable. I have no issue being held accountable. People should be held accountable in front of their teams. Tyreek even alluded to the fact that you didn't hear about it now because we handled it in-house. I took responsibility for it, and now we're talking about it because I want to talk about it. Other people have chimed in yesterday, Dez Bryant being one of them, the always outspoken Dez Bryant. And Dez Bryant basically said that's how he likes being coached as well. Say it to my face. Don't say it behind my back. Don't say it through the media. If you got something to say, just say it. And if I disagree with you, then we'll have words in the moment. But I would rather you say it to my face and hold me accountable in the moment than to let me hear what you might be thinking, a week later through the rumors and the innuendo. Mo, let's go to this. Do you think Mike McDaniel handled it correctly? This is their star wide receiver. He is highly, highly paid at his position. You see issues with other wide receivers in the league who are not as talented as Tyreek Hill and do not make as much money as Tyreek Hill. And oh, by the way, This isn't Andy Reid or a Bill Belichick or a Mike Tomlin. This isn't a guy who has been in the building for decades or been head coach in the NFL for decades. This is a guy who is coming off of his second NFL season, his second playoff loss as a head coach. He has an 0-2 record in the playoffs as a head coach, but he just finished year 2 in this role. So some might say maybe pick and choose your spots, maybe not make an example out of the guy in the locker room, maybe make an example out of somebody else. But Mo, he did what he did. He said what he said, and he went after Tyreek. What are your thoughts?
I actually like that. I like that coming from Mike McDaniels because remember, it isn't just the players that feel pressure of expectations. Mike McDaniels, even though he's a young coach, there is pressure there, right? There's pressure for the Dolphins to go on a deeper run in the playoffs. So there's pressure on him. But what I liked is he's calling out his best player, but I think also the way he approached it was it's a challenge. It's a challenge for Tyreek Hill going forward into next season that you have to come out with the right mindset in the postseason. You're the guy, and everybody takes their cue from the guy. When Tyreek breaks off the line of scrimmage and catches a quick slant and maybe takes it for 20 yards just to get you started, I think the other guys are energized and they galvanize around Tyreek Hill. I think it works the other way too. If they see him struggling or him being bottled up or allowing himself to be covered when normally that wouldn't happen, I think it affects them that way as well. So to call out your best player, I have no problem with that at all. To make him accountable, I'm with that 110%. Again, Mike McDaniels is doing it differently. He's not an old school coach. We're talking about one of the youngest, if not the youngest coach in football. I think this is part of how you approach players in this era. It isn't, that way where my camp said this. It's straight to your face. You could have done better. I've seen you done better. You've played against these guys before, and they couldn't handle you. What's going on? Because you didn't deliver. You didn't step up. So I have no problem with anything Mike McDaniel said. And I actually think Tyreek didn't have a problem with it either.
Yeah, and that's why you didn't hear about it in the immediate aftermath of the playoff loss. That's why it wasn't a headline grabber in the weeks leading into the Dolphins offseason. There was not is there a strain behind Coach McDaniel and Tyreek Hill? You heard about it going into the draft because it was alluded to in a conversation. Somebody asked Tyreek about it, and Tyreek was like, yeah. He told me I didn't play well. He told me that I'm making all this money for what if I'm going to go out there and get roughed up by some. And Tyreek we'll talk about him a little bit later. Tyreek does not lack for ego, Mo. Tyreek does not lack for confidence in himself. Tyreek believes wholeheartedly that he is the best receiver at any given moment in this league and that he is the most talented player at any given moment on a football field. So when you have that kind of talent and you did get locked down and you didn't play your best game and you weren't electric in your return to Arrowhead for the first time since leaving the Chiefs, excuse me. Yeah. So I'm glad he was able to take that in stride. I'm glad that it wasn't made into a bigger issue than it was. Right now, we are going to bring JG onto the show. We got baseball things that need to be discussed, Mo, and JG is the baseball guy to do that with.
Yes, he is.
JG, welcome into the show. How are you this morning, sir?
Doing good, guys. How you guys doing this morning?
Hey, morning, JG.
JG, no complaints on our end. Let's start with Mike Trout of the Angels. JG, this is not the first or the second. This is the third time. Now, we're only 3 weeks into the season, but this is the third time that Mike Trout has to reaffirm his dedication to the Angels and his desire to stay with the Angels and to come out and say, guys, I am dedicated to this team. I want to be here. JG, that's not something that happens with superstars in Major League Baseball unless something's going on in the background. You don't see Aaron Judge coming out every 2 or 3 weeks. I love being a Yankee. I'm not going anywhere. You don't see Acuna coming out. I love being a Brave. I'm not. If they're having to reaffirm the fact that they're committed to the franchise, JG. Are they actually committed to the franchise? Are we going to see Trout as an Angel, in your opinion, when the season ends this year?
Well, actually, Ronald Acuna was asked that this summer over the off season because his contract is getting close to being up, and the contract extensions talks are coming up. So Acuna was asked about that this winter. For Trout, he's going to have to keep hearing this question over and over, and he's going to keep giving the corporate answer each time. That's just who he is. He is someone that, he's not going to be outspoken negatively and just call people out. And try to create controversy. That's never been who he is. So he's going to continue to toe the corporate line, even if he is frustrated about things. And we know he has to be frustrated about what's going on because you're the generational superstar that everybody was expecting such great things, and on a franchise that has absolutely done nothing for you. So he's going to continue to toe the line and make sure that he says the cliches. And, if we go back to the Bull Durham movie, you got to know your cliches. So he's going to continue to speak those cliches right now. I don't know the stance of the Angels to really say that, they're going to now make a trade and trade Mike Trout. They have been so against that for many years, for so long. Even we know when they're in a rebuild, they're still like, no, we're going to hold on to Trout. I think at this point you're going to have no choice but to hold on to Trout. So, and I think that's why Trout is kind of saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm an Angel. I love being an Angel," because I think he does know that he's not going anywhere. I would be shocked if we see a Mike Trout trade at this point because they had so many opportunities to do so to get the full value of Trout in return. That at this point, I know Trout is still a really good ball player. But is his value as high as it used to be 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where there was an opportunity to be? I guess you could say the pre-Shohei Ohtani signing, there was talks about Trout getting traded out of the Angels, and it never happened. So at this point, what would you do if you're the Angels? And you're talking about a fan base that would absolutely riot and turn on you if you trade Trout now. That would be the case. So I kind of think that they're stuck a little bit to hold on to Trout. They had no choice because they missed their opportunity. And Trout realizes that Trout's a smart man, so he realizes the situation at hand for himself as well.
Mike Trout is 32 years old. He currently leads Major League Baseball in home runs. He has 8. He is tied for that lead right now. JG, if he goes into the All-Star break and we're approaching the trade deadline and he's, mid-20s, in home runs. He stayed healthy the first half of the season. He looks like, he's not going to be 33. He looks like he's playing like he's 26. Is there something to this idea of this could be the last trade high moment for Mike Trout as he's hitting his mid-30s or he's approaching his mid-30s and he has had injury concerns? And I know it was just a couple of years ago he hit 40 home runs. But you look at the years around that, a lot of injuries, not super productive seasons. Could we reach a point where if he does stay healthy and he has 25, 26 bops at the All-Star break and the Angels are starting to get some interest, they could look at it and be like, we're not going to move him for nothing. We're not going to move him for the sake of moving him. But if we can get a top-tier starter for the next 5 or 6 seasons, if we can get what we think is value, do you think we could potentially see that happen?
Possibly. You also have to take into consideration that Trout does have a full no trade clause too on top of that. And I think there's only a certain situation that has to be the case for Trout to say yes to a trade. And you have to also know that he still has 6 years left on his contract right now. And it's not a light contract he signed, a 12-year deal. And so we're right in the middle of that contract. So it would still have to take a lot, I think. And I would bet the farm that the Angels are not going to sell low on Trout. They're going to continue to try to push to sell high. And you have to take in consideration he'll be 33. He'll be 32 right now. He will be 33 going into next season. His contract runs until he's 38 years old. That's still a long time. And with a player who has had a lot of injury history in recent years, that's a risk. And I think that's where a lot of the teams right now are hesitant on Mike Trout. They know the talent. Nobody's going to question the talent of Mike Trout. They are questioning the fact that it's the years in the decline at, the 34, 35, 36, 37, 38 years of age, what you're going to get out of him at that point, paying $35 million per season. That's the holdup a lot of these teams are asking and wondering. And it might be that you're going to have to ask, maybe the Angels are just not willing to budge on how much they're willing to help pay the contract for in the trade. And I think that's a factor in itself as well. So could you see it if if he's an MVP candidate and just going off right now and continues to stay, and he plays every game or majority of the games of the first half, you could see a trade talk heating up. I just don't see a team paying the price of what it's going to take, as well as the money that's coming with him, because I just don't see the Angels wanting to eat any of the money in that trade either.
JG, one of the longest running jokes in Major League Baseball is Angel Hernandez. Angel still does Angel things. Angel was doing Angel things this past week in Major League Baseball. There was one at bat where I think there were 3 straight pitches that were easily 4 to 7 inches off of the plate, and he called each one a strike. And each one, the batter looked back wondering, what are we doing? And each one was a strike, and he got punched out on 3 pitches that were nowhere near strikes. I mean, you look through the career of a guy like an Angel Hernandez, and that's what it is. I mean, he consistently is inconsistent, and he consistently makes not great calls. But yet here he still is doing his thing, JG. All these years in, with baseball making different improvements to make things a little more accurate, with baseball doing different things to kind of remove some of that human element, if you will. The robot umpires could be on the future horizons in Major League Baseball. But when you look at someone like Angel Hernandez, how is it that someone who I think most baseball purists would be like, he's not that great at his job? What is he still doing here in Major League Baseball, JG?
Well, first, wonderful segue going from the LA Angels to Angel Hernandez. Love this. I mean, that's professional right there. I love that. That was great. I kind of have, and just to kind of go into, I think of the opinion of Angel Hernandez as an umpire. I think majority of former major leaguers and current major leaguers are not going to say he's kind of bad at his job. They all know he's awful at his job. I kind of have a feeling. So, we have the ABS system in AAA right now, the automated ball strike zone in minor league baseball. I kind of have a feeling that when Major League Baseball put this together, you have the PowerPoint presentation. You say, why? You have to ask the question, why are we doing this? Why are we trying to create the ABS system? And all of a sudden pops up a picture of Angel Hernandez. This is why we are doing an automated ball strike zone with robot umpires and whatnot. This is the reason the conversation continues. It's probably called the Angel Ball Strike Zone, because we have to make sure that we do not let Angel Hernandez call balls and strikes anymore. I digress. And I know his strike zone is always horrendous, and I know that's a conversation every time he's behind the plate. I don't think you actually brought up the more egregious situation that with Gleyber Torres against the Blue Jays, where I can't remember what the pitcher was named, but he steps back on quick, and then pitches. And Torres was trying to step out because he's allowed to step out if the pitcher disengages from the rubber, and he was allowed to re-engage and then pitch immediately as a quick pitch situation. And Angel was like, nope, he didn't do that. He didn't. How do you not notice that? He clearly stepped off, steps back on, and quick pitches immediately right then and there. Everybody in the ballpark saw it, except Angel Hernandez. And then the best part about it, I watched the whole video, and they had all the Lance Barkdale and all the crew gets together. He is arguing against. No, that never happened. He didn't step off. They have other umpires. You're reading their lips. I did see him step off, and Angel was arguing against them. He goes, "Nope, I didn't see it. Therefore, we're not going to." Barksdale, being the crew chief, has the authority to overrule him and say, "Look, I saw it, Angel. He stepped off. Guess what? That's a no pitch because he quick pitched. Now, or it's a 1-0 count because that's a ball because he did not allow the opportunity for the batter to reposition himself to be ready. You argued against that, and they allowed it. So, my goodness, I am speechless every time Angel Hernandez gets away with something like this because I don't think there's anybody else in baseball as an umpire could actually do the things that Angel Hernandez does and get away scot-free from it. Here's to hopefully he retires soon. That's the only thing. That's the only way we're going to be able to get rid of Angel Hernandez. And at this point, why would he? We'd be seeing Angel Hernandez probably umpiring for another 15 years.
Why not? The man just collects his paycheck.
And he's 2 years away from a pay raise. Yeah. He's 2 years away from a pay raise. He's the worst umpire in baseball, and he's about to get a $30,000 pay raise. I would love to be bad at my job and get a pay raise in the process. That's that's a genius. Kudos to Angel for skirting the system to do it. And he's just sitting back laughing at people who call him one of the worst umpires because he knows he is and everybody knows he is, and he's getting away with it.
JG, taking a look around Major League Baseball, the AL East is currently one of the more competitive divisions in baseball. Everybody is over 500. If you pop into the AL Central, are you surprised at all by the Guardians getting off to the 16-6 start? I think the Royals might be more of the feel-good story, along with the Tigers in that division. They're both over 500 at this point into the season. Usually this is about the time that, they dip under 500 or they've been under 500 and we don't see or hear from them again. But both of those franchises have themselves in nice spots right now. But coming into this season, you talk about the Guardians as a team that underachieved last season when many were looking at them as potentially clear-cut winners of that division. And then you look at them coming into this season, and maybe a lot of it had to do with the underperforming of last season and the potential emergence of some of these younger teams. But Cleveland's been off to a hot start, and you take out that series against the Yankees, they've looked really good so far this season. What are you making of what Cleveland is doing right now?
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing is what they should have done or they should have been last year. I mean, this is a good hitting team. You have Jose Ramirez and Bo Naylor and Josh Naylor. You have Stephen Kwan. You have good hitters on this club that did not perform well last year. And that was and the injuries in the pitching staff really derailed them. Now here we are. Injuries to the pitching staff again have gripped their heads. Shane Bieber out for the season, but the offense is being able to at least produce. There's your difference right now between the pitching is still a question mark, but they are actually able to score runs right now. They could not score runs last year. And so there was a lot of people that picked the Guardians to win this division in 2023. And they, as you said, they underperformed with the offensive side. Again, the pitching, you have to take into consideration the injuries that they suffered. You have to take into consideration that guys were just not ready or not good enough at the time. They weren't healthy enough either. And it really set them back. We're seeing the same thing with the pitching staff, but the offense is producing. 125 runs scored. That's the 124 runs scored. That's tied for second most in baseball. They have a plus 52 run differential, which is the highest differential in baseball. So they're scoring runs and they're getting good pitching. My question, though, is how long is this pitching going to last? Because you don't have Shane Bieber. You don't have your ace. Tristan McKenzie has been really up and down a lot throughout his career right now, and he's supposed to be the next guy up, and he has not. So you're counting on some guys that you're hoping continues to develop and push and grow from the opportunity that they're getting that they did not get last year, did not do very well last year with. Learning from that and using it in 2024, I think we're kind of seeing that right now. But the question is can they keep it up? It's easy to do it for a month. Can you do it for 3 months? Can we continue this in June? If they can, you can talk about the Guardians possibly winning this division. But I think you have to consider Royals. I think they're a little bit of ahead of schedule right now. I think they're going to fall back. They're going to be kind of like the Pittsburgh Pirates were last year. We saw them in the first month and a half. They were on fire. They were a first place team, and then things kind of just fizzled out on them. I think we're going to see that with the Royals this year. They're a good and young team, but I think they're just a little early still right now. They'll be a much improved team like we see or what we're seeing but they're just not there yet. The Detroit Tigers, as long as and the Tigers were my pick to win this division, I think we're going to continue to see them kind of just be in the conversation, but I think they're better positioned than the Guardians and the Royals to push ahead and jump ahead in this division. So I think they're just kind of biding their time right now. They're getting a young team still, but I think they're more ready than the two teams that are above them. And that's what we're going to probably end up seeing here by the time we get to June is we'll see the Tigers make their move while the other two teams start falling down the chute.
JG, it's never good to come out of the gate 7-16. The Astros are 9 games under 500, but if there is a silver lining, they're only 5 games out of first place because this division itself isn't playing great baseball right now. The Texas Rangers are 12-11. They're the only team over 500 in their division. The Mariners are right behind them at 500. Obviously, 7-16 is not the place to be, but if the Rangers and the Mariners continue to play 500 ball like they have almost 25 games into the season, you are leaving the door open if Houston can figure it out. Not saying they're going to, but you look up after a terrible first 20-plus games, and you're like, we're only 5 out. If we can just get a little more consistent and start getting wins on the board, we can at least maintain that gap, if not close it a little bit, JG. So 2 things. 1, where is Houston? And then 2, where do you see this division shaking out over the next couple of months as we head into the summer?
It's interesting that, the Astros, we kind of saw this from them last year, the slow start. They had some sputtering going on. They had some questions to be answered, and they were able to turn it on. Championship teams still turn it on and figure it out. And that's why we always say it's a marathon, not a sprint in baseball. You're not winning a championship in April or May. You're building to the second half. The second half in August is when you really need to turn it on at that point. So, is there concern in Houston? Yes, there is. Talking about pitching. Pitching has not been good in Houston, and you're throwing guys that kind of like I just talked about the Guardians. You're throwing guys that are not quite ready right now. And you've had Framber Valdez, who's down with an elbow injury. You have Christian Javier, who's just been mediocre at times here and there. There's a lot of talk about Justin Verlander coming back, but you're relying on a 41-year-old pitcher who's coming off of an injury that you're concerned for at his age. If you're even an injury at his as a 28-year-old, you're kind of still concerned. But as a 41-year-old, you're talking about, if you're thinking about Verlander being your savior of your rotation, you're in really big trouble. The only positive side for the Astros is that the injuries to the Rangers pitching staff that they've endured, as well as other injuries in the lineup, has kind of put them in a position where they're sputtering as well. But if you have to look at the two teams, the Rangers are clearly a more talented team. They're in a better position right now, and I think that's going to be the difference maker between those two. I have no trust in the Mariners right now. The Mariners they've been teasing us for a couple of years about making moves that you're sitting there thinking, okay, they're going to make a run here, and then they fizzle and we don't see it. And last year was kind of a up and down roller coaster of a ride, and it wasn't a fun ride to watch. And you kind of see like, okay, you're not there yet. You're not serious about winning this division. And you throw in the Angels and the A's right there as well, that they're just there in the division. So that's the benefit for the Astros. But I think because the Rangers are the more talented team, they're going to get healthy at some point. It's a matter of when the pitchers are going to be ready to go, that you're getting with Scherzer and DeGrom. DeGrom, more likely, I think, from what I saw, was not coming back this year, or it's a potentially late end of the season that we'll see him. So the same thing, you're going to trust a 41-year-old pitcher in Scherzer, who's had more injury history than Verlander has in recent years, to try to hopefully just add something to your rotation. That's a big asking point. So both teams are in trouble with some of the things they have to do with their pitching, but the talented team will win out in those two, and that is going to be the Rangers.
Before we get you out of here, JG, if you are a Rangers fan, you were excited about what you saw out of Jack Leiter. He came up, he made his debut, he struck out his first batter, I believe. Obviously, when those things happen, you get a call up, he homers in his first at bat, or he homers in his first game. You're like, oh, here we go. We've heard about it, we've waited for it. It's time to lock in. JG, what are realistic expectations for a kid like Jack Leiter, because he is someone that has been in that organization for a minute now. His name consistently gets thrown around as being someone who is going to be the future. But you look at other players who have a little bit of name recognition, a little bit of name value, and similar conversations are had with them. And more often than not, they're a piece and they're not something that they're going to build a franchise around for years and years to come. Realistically, what would you say is a fair expectation for Jack?
Well, he did get sent back down to AAA after the start. He went 3 2/3 innings. He gave up 8 hits, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. I'm trying to see the rest of his stats. He had a 17.18 ERA, so he gave up a handful of runs in the start. That it was very first big league start feeling to it. You had some moments where you were excited, and you had some moments like, oh, you still need to be back in minor leagues. And that's the hard part for someone like the Jack Leiter, who's 24 years old now. He's got his first big league appearance this past week. You're sitting back, if you're the Rangers organization, if you're the front office, does this kid have it? Does he have it yet? Has he figured it out? Is he going to figure it out? Because he's not blown people away right now in the minor leagues. He's not top prospect material in the minor leagues based off of the numbers that he has. The stuff has been there, but it's not been consistent. And that's kind of the wondering that you have to sit back if you're the Rangers organization and look at it and go, is he part of our future? Because the time is now. I mean, I said this beginning of the year for the Rangers, that when they didn't make moves that they should have made, you're essentially telling people, we have kids in the minors that are going to be ready, that we're going to give them opportunities for, and they're going to have to take off and do what we expect them to do. Otherwise, they're going to have to be traded. And Jack Leiter's one of them. That if he does not figure it out, we could see a Jack Leiter trade and just say, look, maybe a change of scenery is going to be better for him. Some new coaching staff and new minor league staff that will help develop him might be the best case scenario. Put him in a package and deal to try to get maybe another player in that for your run that you're going to make in the second half. That might be a conversation that needs to be starting to have right now. But I think they're going to give him more opportunities to prove that he can be a big league pitcher. It's a matter of what is he going to do usually when we see a pitcher experience big leagues, he goes back down to AAA and back down to the minors, and he starts actually pitching better. Do we see that from Jack Leiter this time, that he may figure it out from what he saw and experience and go and dominate at Round Rock and really take off to say, I learned from the experience. Now when I get back out there, I'm going to utilize what I experienced. I'm going to show that I'm better than what I did the first time around. That's a typical thing that we see, and even a lot of organizations hope to see. That's going to be the case for Jack. Is when the next time he gets a call up, which he will get another call up at some point in the first half here, whether it's in May or June. How does he learn from his experience, and how does he grow from it?
JG, always a pleasure, sir. We will see you tomorrow morning. We're going to talk NL tomorrow, sir.
Sounds good as always. Appreciate it.
Mo, always a pleasure to have JG on the show with us. Before JG came on, Mo, I said we were going to talk Tyreek one more time, and we are right now. Tyreek Hill also came out over the weekend, Mo, and he said that if he ever had the opportunity to line up against Primetime in his prime, he would have given Primetime more than he could have ever dreamed of. Tyreek said he would have put up 175 and at least 2 touchdowns on prime Deion Sanders. Before we went to JG, Mo, I told you Tyreek does not have any lacking when it comes to ego or a self-belief that he is the greatest all time at what he does. But Mo, when you are looking at the other side of the field, talking about maybe one of the greatest of all time on the defensive side that would be covering him, where do you think he falls in that conversation? Would he have been too much for Primetime to handle in his prime?
So we would have to start with the first conversation we had about Tyreek. His coach was frustrated with him because he struggled with the fact that he allowed the Chiefs DBs to put hands on him and be physical with him. Well, if he played prime time Deion Sanders, they were allowed to put hands on you even more. He would. I think Tyreek Hill would struggle against Deion Sanders in his time if he played with Deion Sanders because he'd struggle to get off the line of scrimmage. I think he would have moments, but the idea that he would light prime time up for 175, I don't think so. I think Tyreek would have modest numbers matching up against a prime Deion Sanders. Like I can give you another cornerback that of that era who I think was more physical, maybe not as gifted. A guy like Ananias Williams or someone like that. What about a Darrelle Revis? A little bit more modern term. I just think that when you go up against a physical corner, and it's kind of strange because when I watched that game, I watched the Dolphins game this past playoff, and I was watching and I was like, wow, they're allowing a lot because they were allowing contact that you're not supposed to allow. Like as the rules go, you can't touch them beyond 5 yards, and they were grabbing the shoulders. I mean, they were getting away with a lot. So look, I think Tyreek Hill is terrific, and you can easily make this statement: he may be the greatest deep threat I've ever seen. But I think he's more than that because he's the guy that can take a 10-yard slant 90 yards. So the only thing that I would say that doesn't make him the greatest receiver, and I love his confidence, is what we talked about. He's not that classical guy that in the red zone you can throw it up and he can go get it. He's not one of those guys. But anywhere else on the field, he's the ultimate strike quick guy. A fantasy matchup of him and Deion, I think Tyreek would have some moments, but I don't think he would dominate a prime Deion Sanders.
You put Tyreek into the body of a Randy Moss or a Megatron with the same skill set, the same speed, everything is the same. The size just changes a little bit, and now we're talking a different story. Tyreek is great, but at the same time, he's a little bit on the smaller side. He's not a jump ball guy. He does have hops, but he isn't going to out jump every corner and every defensive back because he just doesn't have the size to do that. We've seen balls last year where Tua threw him high and they were picked or they were batted away because although Tyreek went up there, he just wasn't big enough to pull those types of balls down. That's just not his game. That's why when you say who is better between Tyreek and Justin Jefferson, I often say they play different games because there's just stuff that Tyreek can do that isn't the main focus of Jefferson's game. And just physically from body type, there's stuff that Justin Jefferson can do that Tyreek simply can't because he doesn't have that kind of size. Obviously, when you're taking any great receiver from today in 2024 and you want to go play football in the 80s or early 90s, I'm always going to lean a little more towards the defensive side because today's players, they didn't have to deal with that, Mo. High school, college, pros, they didn't have to deal with that. So the first time that someone just cleans Justin Jefferson's clock as he's cutting across the field and nothing happens as a result, and Jefferson's laying there like, what are we like? That's what it is. Like, it's almost unfair because yes, they would adapt because they're that talented. But if you're just plucking arrows and you're saying one game, one moment line up, the first half of that game is going to be a shell shock for players of today because they're going to get punched in the face and no one's going to bat an eye on it.
Right. And look, now we have a tackle zone, right? You can only hit them in certain spots. Well, back then, they're taking your head off. They're taking, I mean, you have to have your head on a swivel back then. Look, football is the ultimate physical game. We always talk about it as a high collision sport, but they've actually made great strides in terms of making it less physical, if that makes any sense. Could you imagine a receiver like a Justin Jefferson with all his ability and all his talent playing in that era in the first half, like you said? A DB would look at him and lick his chops and like, wait till he goes over the middle to catch a slant and somebody takes his head off. He's going to look around for a flag and the ref's going to be like, keep going, play on, let's go.
That's why are you still on the ground?
Right. It is a shell shock. The NFL, look, and I have no problem. I think they did great things by making the game safer. Guys were getting. I remember a guy named Daryl Stingley literally got paralyzed on a hit by Jack Tatum. The game, and even now, the DeMar Hamlin scare and things of that nature, it's such a high collision sport. You just never know. But like I said, we're talking about a special receiver in Tyreek Hill going against Deion Sanders. It would be one of the most amazing fantasy matchups. We'll never see it, but I would love to have seen those two go at each other.
Mo, big weekend for the NBA. Big weekend if you were a top seed. Big weekend if you were a home team. First time in 11 years, the home teams took all of the game one matchups, which, you know, when you were looking at it, there were a couple where you're like, oh, I could see this team taking one early on the road. But for the most part, Mo, I think as we were previewing the start of the playoffs, we were all pretty confident the home teams, all things considered, would probably play pretty well and take care of business to start the playoffs off. Let's go through a game by game real quick. We'll start with the Lakers, and the Nuggets. 114-103. This was going to be a tough matchup for Los Angeles. Even though Laker fans want to say that a lot has changed between last season and this season, you look at it and they're still good, right? And if the Nuggets weren't there, if they got hot again like they did last season in the playoffs, you could see a situation where they go to the Western Conference Finals or even to the NBA Finals. But unfortunately, they're starting off their playoff run this year with the team that ended their playoff run last year. Mo, did you see anything in game one that stood out to you as a positive on the Lakers side where you're like, okay, we can build on this going to game two, and they could walk out of here 1-1 heading into game three?
Yeah, I thought Anthony Davis basically played Joker even. Both of them 32 points, both of them 14 rebounds. Like I thought AD played him even. I said going into the series, his best defense would be his offense, his ability to go at Joker, and I think he's got to continue to do that. I think he has to be their number one option throughout this series. Look, the struggle is real simple. There's regular season D'Angelo Russell who played terrific. Could not miss a shot. If you left him alone, you could count it. You can go back on the other end of the floor. It's money. And then there's postseason D'Angelo Russell, and he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. That's how bad he shot, and he struggled. And you could tell watching the game, he got down on himself early. If the Lakers are going to make this a series, Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell have to make shots. It's that plain. It's that plain because, again, Denver doesn't have a star-studded lineup. What they have is they have a terrific, cohesive unit built around a superstar player, and everybody plays into their role. Michael Porter Jr. hit so many big shots the other night. It's a difficult matchup because Denver's very unique in that across their front line, Joker goes 7 foot, Porter Jr. 6'10", Aaron Gordon 6'8". He's an undersized power forward, but he's got a 45-inch vertical. And he's probably one of the strongest guys in basketball. So when they run that three-man action, if you jump up on Murray, Joker lobs it to Gordon for the dunk. I mean, they do it over and over and over again. It's repeat over and over. Look, Denver is the best team in basketball for a reason. I laugh when people go, why you keep giving Joker all this credit? He's not that good. He's a little overrated. No, he's that good. He's that good. If you want to be nitpick, he's not going to make an all-NBA defensive team, but he actually competes very well on defense. And look, everything centers around him. For the Lakers to win this game or win this series, it literally hinges on their backcourt. Reeves and D'Lo have to make shots, or we're going to get a repeat of last year. It's going to be a short series.
No, it's almost like this time of year, you know, he's getting a little tired. He wants to get home to the horses, and he just realizes that the shorter these series are, the quicker he's going to get home, and he's going to leave the United States, and he's going to get back to the life that he wants to be living. And if you're on the other side of the court, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a man that doesn't want to go 6 or 7 games with you. He wants to get in there and get out of there in 4, because he's got things to do in the off season, and he says it sometimes. Like, I just want to go home. Why? We got parades. What are we doing here, Mo? Let me just win basketball games and go home. That's what he wants to do. If you are a 76ers fan, gosh, another injury scare for Joel Embiid. I mean, thank goodness that we're looking okay, but it was some tense moments. The Knicks win game 1, 111-104. We knew that when the 76ers went into the playoffs, it would be a little more of a challenging path than it probably should be as a 7 seed. But Mo, you look at Embiid and you look at the injuries he's had already this season. You look at the injury scare from game 1. Obviously, they're not going to shut Embiid down and just say we're done with it, because they need him if they want to make a deep run into the playoffs. But man, it was tough. It was tough to be in that moment. It was tough to think what might have just happened. But as you look forward in this series, what do you think we're going to see from the Knicks? Is it going to be much of the same from game 1? Are the Sixers going to make a series out of this?
I think the Sixers are going to make a series out of this. In watching the game, and a lot of people know this, the Sixers actually played Jalen Brunson well. They put size on him. They blitz him. They throw him off his rhythm. And he didn't shoot well. I mean, he made some shots late, but he didn't shoot well. He really actually got picked up by his teammates. His teammates were the ones making the big shots. Deuce McBride was the best player on the floor, I thought, for the Knicks offensively. And defensively, Hartenstein, I thought he was terrific. But the series, Chris, literally comes down to what is Embiid's situation. Because Embiid in the first half, he still didn't look 100%, but he was moving well, and they had complete control. Nobody could guard him. The second half, he comes out, and he makes this ferocious dunk where he throws the ball off the backboard, but he lands on that knee. And he goes to the ground, and you're like, oh, my God. And the look in his eyes was like he was worried.
Yep.
Fortunately, he came back. He was able to finish the game. But I really think it comes down to if he can stay on the floor and just use his footwork and his skills versus trying to be spectacular or athletic, if he can just pick his spots, I think this is going to be a terrific series, because when you play the Knicks, if you can disrupt Brunson, you can disrupt the Knicks. He literally is their only shot creator. And I really think that's the problem with the Knicks as a team. They're terrific defensively, but offensively, they're flawed because everything is put on Brunson's back.
And Mo, you know this very well. Once you start playing not to get hurt, you are opening up a whole nother door as an athlete that you do not want to open up. So as a Philadelphia fan, you basically just have to hope that Embiid's mindset is pedal to the floor. We'll blow the doors off of it and we'll see what happens. And hopefully when it's all said and done, this team is where this team wants to be and I'm still healthy. But if he starts second guessing things while playing in the heat of the moment, he is going to hurt himself because of that. Mo, if you went to a fan of the Phoenix Suns at the start of this season and you said, hey, you're going to the playoffs this year, and they're going to be like, well, yeah, of course we are, and you're going to lose by almost 30 in game 1 of the playoffs, not a single one was going to buy into that, Mo, but that's exactly what happened. 25-point loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is not what was supposed to happen for the Phoenix Suns this season. They were on paper going to be an amazing team. This was the team that you did not want to see in the playoffs, Mo, because at full strength, they were going to be a lot to handle. And now here they are going into a game 2 being like, we need to even this up. We don't want to go down into an 0-2 hole because things are not going the way we wanted them to go, Mo.
No. And look, you're playing against probably the best defensive team in basketball in the Timberwolves. I thought the Timberwolves early had made a mistake, though. They were trying to guard Kevin Durant with size. They put Towns on him. At times, Gobert was matched up with him. If you try to guard Kevin Durant with size, he will eat you alive. And to their credit, they made the adjustment. They put quicker, more athletic guys on him, like Jaden McDaniels. Alexander Walker guarded him. and that slowed up the Suns. They also did a terrific job on Devin Booker, who struggled throughout the game. Phoenix really has a puncher's chance, Chris. It's if they're scoring well, because they don't defend well. If they're scoring well and all three guys are on, you could be in trouble. But they don't defend. And it's really weird because look at the Knicks, look at the Timberwolves. It's very similar. A lot is put in the hands of Anthony Edwards to be the best player in the series. I think he's going to be the best player in the series. I don't think there's an answer for him. And should Karl-Anthony Towns comes along, you got Gobert giving you a double-double. Mike Conley didn't shoot well, but great floor game. I just think bottom line, the Timberwolves are just a better basketball team. The Suns have bigger name recognition, but they're not a team.
In maybe one of the most underrated series of the start of the playoffs, you got the Magic and the Cavs. I think the mindset here, Mo, is two decent teams, but I think that no one's giving either of them a real chance past this series. I think they're both saying one of them is going to win the series and they're going to be competitive next round, but that's it for them. That's where one of these teams is going to exit, whoever wins the series. Which team has the best chance of coming out of this series and then winning in the next round as well? The Magic or the Cavs?
I think the Cavs. I picked the Magic because I think they're top three defense. They usually win 50-50 balls. They're number one in the NBA getting to the free throw line. The downside of that is they're number one in the NBA getting to the free throw line, but they're near the bottom at actually making their free throws. That's a weird thing. And in game one, I think they missed like 17 free throws. Like that. And here's the thing: their two best players, Paolo and Franz Wagner. Neither one of them can shoot the three. Their two leading scorers don't shoot the three well. And the guys that come off the bench, they're streak shooters at best. What they struggle with is they desperately need another guy. I thought Paolo had a chance to be maybe the best player in this series, and maybe he still will. But I think if you're going to go against the Cavs and you don't take anything away from them, meaning Donovan Mitchell got off, Darius Garland got off, and you allowed Jared Allen to dominate in the paint, this will be a short series. Like, I thought game one, the Magic showed what a young team that's never been there as a unit looks like. They look shell-shocked often.
The Thunder probably didn't go into their series with the Pelicans, Mo, thinking we were going to be tied at half. The Thunder probably didn't go into this series with the Pelicans thinking it was going to be a one-possession game as the game was coming down to a close. But that's what it was. It was a 2-point victory for the Thunder. The Pelicans were in it the entire first half. The Thunder went on stretches in the second half, but the Pelicans kept it close. If you are a Pelicans fan, you walk away from this game saying, okay. It wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. There were a lot of blowouts in all these game ones, Mo. We weren't one of them. Obviously that could all change game two. The Thunder could blow them out. It could be a 2-0 hole, and now you're thinking totally different. But when you're talking a 1-8 matchup, I think for an 8 seed to lose in the 1-8 matchup in a game one, you're coming out of this feeling okay, Mo.
More than okay. The Pelicans for the game shot below 40% from the field, shot below 30% from three. Like they were horrible, but they were able to stay in the game by winning the 50-50 balls, by getting multiple opportunities on the boards. They won the boards. They were strong on the offensive end. I think we forget they're without Zion. But even without Zion, when you've got a Trey Murphy, a Brandon Ingram, when you've got somebody like Valanciunas in the middle, they have enough offense. I guess the struggle is, though, can they slow down SGA? Can they slow down Chet? I thought it was an interesting matchup because Valanciunas has probably got 40 pounds on, maybe 50 pounds on Chet Holmgren. And so when they're in the restricted area, he's just burying Holmgren under the basket, just dominating him on the boards. But when they're in space on the other end, Holmgren, with his ability to put the ball on the floor, step out from three, he has the advantage. So it's an interesting chess match. I think this is going to be probably the best series of the first round, but I still think OKC wins.
Celtics take care of business against the Miami Heat. And then, Mo, we finish off with two games where I feel like these were the two biggest missed opportunities of the beginning of the playoffs. You have the Mavericks, who are playing against a Kawhi-less Clippers, and then you have the Pacers, who have a chance to take the Bucks, who have been on a roller coaster ride since they made their coaching change. If the Pacers came out and made a statement in game 1, all that doubt is going to come right back into Milwaukee, and it's a whole different vibe going into game 2. If the Mavericks come out and take game 1 when Kawhi wasn't there, it's a whole different vibe going into game 2. Neither team was able to do it. So now the Bucks are feeling okay about themselves. Playoffs have started. We've reset. We played well. We are up 1-0. Clippers are like, we didn't play with Kawhi. We won. They're feeling great. So, Mo, for me, those two games, I'm not shocked by the outcomes. I'm just saying missed opportunity to set the tone early for both of those underdogs.
Right. And look, if you're the underdog and you lose game 1 because you're on the road, your mindset should still be, we came here to get one game, right? We came here to get one. But I thought Indiana blew even worse, because you'd had all this success by beating Milwaukee with your pace, because Milwaukee's an old, slow team. Well, they played at their pace, but the Pacers couldn't make any shots. And everybody knows the Pacers don't play defense. So if you're going to play at a breakneck pace, not make shots and not guard, you're going to get blown out. And they got destroyed. Damian Lillard scored 35 points in the first half, Chris. He didn't score at all in the second half, and he didn't need to. The Pacers get the brakes beat off them. So I was really disappointed in them. Not shocked that the Clippers won at home. I'm just shocked that they completely dominated the Mavericks the way they did without Kawhi. If you told me that Harden was going to go 28 points, 9 assists with no turnovers, I'd have been like, yeah, right. Harden was the best player on the floor. I don't care what the numbers say, because in the end, I know Luka had 33 and 16, but that's more like dressing around your turkey. Anybody that watched the game knows last night the best player was James Harden.
And Mo, we're seeing a repeat from the playoffs last year, when at times Harden carried his team to victory in the playoffs. There were moments where, because of injuries and different situations, someone had to step up. And it was James Harden in a couple of games last year where they made it as far as they did because of him. And now it's a new team this year, but we're seeing the same thing early on. Harden, because of injuries, they needed someone to step up and kind of fill the Kawhi output. And Harden said, I got you. So one game in, if you're the Clippers, it's a success. We'll see what the rest of the playoffs bring. Right. We got tonight going, Mo. Tonight in the NBA, we got game 2 with the Magic and the Cavs, game 2 with the 76ers and the Knicks, and then game 2 with the Lakers and the Nuggets. Real quick, let's go through each. Who do you got tonight? Magic and Cavs.
You know what? I'm still going to go Magic. I think the Magic fight back and tie it up.
76ers and Knicks.
This is so easy. If Embiid is moving well, I got the Sixers. If he's laboring or struggling, it's the Knicks.
And then can the Lakers even the series tonight?
You asked me this loaded question. Come on, man. So I don't want to sound like a homer. Can they? Yes.
Will they?
Probably not. But Laker fans out there listening to us live, I go into the game thinking we have a shot.
That's right.
But we literally just need to play like we played last game and have D'Lo show up. It's that simple.
If D'Lo shows up, it's a completely different game tonight, and every Laker fan knows that. It's just a matter of whether or not he's going to show up. Mo, great start on a Monday. Close us out, sir.
Thank you guys so much for joining Chris and I on a Monday. We appreciate you so much. Check out the Wire to Wire Network. We are growing, and it is because of you. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you guys.
We're here same time, same place tomorrow. Make sure you are back here. We are going to talk a little wrestling. Vince McMahon is potentially making moves. There was a big title change in AEW over the weekend that fans are not happy about. And we are going to talk NFL draft. Is it smokescreen? Is it not? What are the Patriots going to do at 3? Is Aaron Rodgers still pulling all of the strings in New York? You know that he is. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports